All right, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Let us call to order the Coweta County Convention Facilities Development Corporation meeting of Board of Directors for the date of Friday, October 25th. The time be reflected to be 8:35 a.m. Julie, can you please call the roll?
Debbie Berry,
Here.
Jeff Epstein,
He's here.
He's here.
David Gilbert, Majid McClue,
Here.
Trevor McAleer,
Here.
Michael Obi, Tim Oftermatt,
Here.
Shonda Smith, Mayor Sellers.
Here.
Look to be reflected that there is a quorum present for today's meeting. All right, you have in your packet, we have three sets of meeting minutes to approve. I'm gonna take them one by one. Then you can get it. You have in your packet the meeting minutes from the date of July 26th, 2024. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? So there's a motion made to remove and seconded properly. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, July 26th is approved. Let's move to October 9th. Comments, questions, or concerns? Nice motion made to move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded properly. Is there any other concerns? Hearing none, I ask for a vote for approval.
Aye.
Saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Nay. So those meeting minutes are approved. Last year, we'll move to October 16th. Comments, questions, or concerns? Motion made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, those meeting minutes are. Thank you. We will now move to the portion of the agenda that is allows our public to make their public comments or questions made and known. I think, Julie, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, thank you. We are see on the agenda that there's gonna I believe that someone's gonna make a motion to move to executive session. In that executive session, obviously, there's the board of directors, the legal representative, and then I think that's it, right? I believe. So is there a motion? Because I understand there's a motion you made.
I move to go into executive session to consider employment of an official.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Julie, call the roll, please.
Debbie Berry,
Yes.
Jeff Epstein.
Yes.
David Gilbert, Majid McClue,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Michael Obi, Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Shonda Smith, and Mayor Sellers.
Yes. All right, thank you. We're now in the executive session. All those that are not, if there's a name, I'm gonna ask you to please excuse yourself in the room. All right, let's bring the municipal meeting of Coweta County Convention Facilities Development Corporation back in session. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, the acceptance of the executive director's resignation given on May 3rd, 2024, effective November 1st, 2024. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation, the resignation letter? Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
I moved and properly seconded. Can you give me a roll call, please?
Yes. Debbie Berry,
Yes.
Jeff Epstein.
Yes.
David Gilbert,
Yes.
Majid McClue,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Michael Obi, Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Shonda Smith, Mayor Sellers.
Yes. All right, so Dave Gilbert. You want to speak here?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, everybody. Very quick report here. I am start with the lead. Excited that we are asking for the acceptance of Tim Meyer as the new executive director of the CCCFDC. Briefly, as you all know, we've gone through a process over the last 4 months, a search process. We had a committee that consisted of Debbie Berry, Jeff Epstein, Trevor McAleer, and me. We had a consultant Thrive Consulting, Shannon Waffen is the principal that helped us through the process. It started with a thorough search and with an emphasis on trying to get as diverse a candidate pool as possible. We had close to 40 applicants for the job through a couple of rounds, narrowed down to a top two. Two candidates had online interviews, in-person interviews. A number of other people, including Mayor Sellers and Majid, also met with the final two candidates. We asked Ron King to also meet, just to provide all of them to provide their feedback. I believe you have Tim's bio. He has a great background. He spent most of his career in the hospitality industry, managing large hotels. I have had personal experience from a past time he was in Cleveland, and I would say he is someone who really has a strong understanding of the industry, of facilities, and I believe what this organization and this convention center are trying to achieve for the community. I think he will wants to work very hard with the board, with the community. I'd say two last things. Three. He has signed an offer letter that Jeff Applebaum prepared. He is prepared to start as early as next Monday. We'd have to decide that. And one other recommendation I would have is that we do put forward an onboarding plan. I have asked Shannon from Thrive if she's willing to help us with that, just put it together and kind of help give us reports and monitor that, just in terms of the people he would need to meet, and just so we know that there's a great process of onboarding to get started. Open to any questions, and that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Dave Gilbert? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept Tim Meyer as the new executive director of the CCCFDC as so represented?
I move to accept the engagement letter as drafted by legal counsel and signed by.
I'm going to point out the engagement letter still has a condition, and that there's a condition on a background check. So it would be subject to the background check.
Subject to the background check.
So the motion made, is there a second to
Second.
the move and properly seconded? Julie, can you please call the roll?
Debbie Berry.
Yes.
Jeff Epstein.
Yes.
David Gilbert.
Yes.
Majid McClure.
Yes.
Trevor McAleer.
Yes.
Michael Obi. Tim Oftermatt.
Yes.
Rashonda Smith. And Mayor Sellers.
Yes. All right, so that is properly moved and seconded. We'll go to the executive director presentation.
We just did that.
Oh,
that's it. We just did that. Election.
Could I jump in for 1 sec? Chair, and I guess just for the committee, would you all be comfortable with asking Shannon to just prepare for us to look at an onboarding plan?
David, this is Tim. I'd be perfectly comfortable with that. I'm not sure that any one of us is more qualified than Shannon is to do that.
That be the case, then it meets the approval of the board to have Shannon start looking at the onboarding, help us with the onboarding process. I'll just ask for, is everybody okay with that? Okay, Dave.
Okay, I'll work on it on behalf of the whole board, and she'll send something to everybody. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to the next is the election of officers. This is the time for the election of officers and executive committee. Let me first say the executive committee met as a nominating committee, and it will offer to the board a slate of Majid McClure as the president, the vice president being Debbie Berry, treasurer being Trevor McAleer, and secretary being Rashonda Smith. But this floor is open for anyone else that wants to be considered for. Is there anyone else who wants to be considered for any board executive committee positions? None. The floor for a motion is closed. We will now ask for a vote for the proposed slate for the new executive committee and officer positions. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, just, let's just take one step. So our election of officers, which we do every 2 years, at this point in time, the executive committee, by our practice, is the slate of officers. Now, that can change. The process, would be, say there's a slate which is presented. I think the process here is to make a motion and second a motion on the slate and then vote individually on each officer.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we want to do is, then when you're done, I'm going to just take a second, because I think there's something on the executive committee that I want to mention, and then there's a consideration of whether there should be any other committees. So go ahead.
All right.
Did we not vote on the slate if it was
Yeah,
introduced
I
that
was
way
just
and
about
there
to
was
say
no
that,
one
Debbie.
else recommended?
Right.
I mean,
Why you
No,
voting?
Sure.
you're voting individually.
but the chair asked if there was anyone else
Right.
to be considered and there is no
Yeah,
one.
the
you can't
idea-
then vote on
You
the
can
slate.
vote individually.
No, Jeff, sorry, I think the reason why we were thinking of voting individually initially is because I was saying that whether I could vote for myself or whether I had to abstain, so we wouldn't have.
Okay, well, that was your.
But if the legal conclusion is
You
we can
you
vote
you
for
can vote
ourselves,
You can vote for
then we
yourself.
would, then
You can
that's
vote
not
on
an
the
issue.
slate then.
Okay.
That was the reason we
Okay,
wanted
just make it
to,
quicker.
Yeah.
no, we wanted to do it individually because we didn't know if we could vote for
Thank you,
ourselves.
Dan.
That's fine.
All right, so a slate has been proposed to this board. There's been no other offers for folks to serve on this board, and the executive committee and the officer positions that are presented to you are the slate for this ongoing election. All right, so is there a motion to approve the slate as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Now we'll take the individual vote.
No, to take a vote on the slate now.
No, we're voting on the slate, but you're gonna do the roll call on the slate. Let me
Yeah,
do
okay.
this, let me do this.
Debbie Berry.
Yes,
Jeff Epstein. David Gilbert,
Yes.
Najee McClure,
Yes,
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Michael Obi, Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith, Mayor Sellers.
Yes. All right, that, is your new new executive committee and new officers for the organization. I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Najee McClure, the new president of the board.
thank you very much.
The one last point on this is, we did, at our last committee, made some modifications on who can serve on the structure of the executive committee. The only other thing I wanted to mention is, this is also the time, if there's any consideration for any other committee structure, and I know that's a conversation
Trevor was.
that very quickly want to have.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can, real quick,
Yes.
as we just discussed, we're transitioning to a new executive director effective, November 1st, from our first ever executive director. So we've got losing a lot of institutional knowledge, and I think it's time that we set up a committee. We were thinking a human resources committee that would review areas such as like the current HR policies and procedures manual, compensation for our employees, ensuring fair and equitable treatment for all of our employees. So I'd like to make a motion to create a human resources committee, and that would be made up of 3 CCCFDC executive board members. And if it's approved, then the board chair can send out an email asking board members of their interest to serve on the committee.
So you're calling
I'm used to moving,
Yeah.
but I'll move for the adoption of the committee as recommended by Trevor.
I'll second.
discussion quickly. Can we just ratify that to not be executive board members, to just be regular board members, so all board members are
Yeah, all
eligible?
board members would be eligible, yeah,
Thank you.
made up of 3 of them.
Yep, perfect.
We call the vote on it.
Debbie Berry.
Yes.
Jeff Epstein.
Yes.
David Gilbert. David Gilbert,
Yes, sorry, I have trouble getting off mute.
Najee McClure,
Yes,
Trevor McAleer,
Yes,
Michael Obi, Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith, and Mayor Sellers.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, I just have to caution everybody, we have a number of voting members who need to be out of here by 10. So I want to make sure that we don't lose quorum. So we're gonna breeze through all the remaining items. With that, Ron, you can give us a convention center update.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, I want to thank those members that are rolling off to the executive committee for their service. So Mayor Sellers and Tim Oftermatt, thank you very much for your service. I want to introduce very quickly Craig Liston, my boss, and as we go through our changes, that was for you, Steve.
Yeah, so in the spirit of transition, which seems to be the theme today, we're doing a little bit of restructuring with us as well. So I'd like to introduce John Page. John succeeded me as GM in Columbus. He was my AGM and Director of Operations when I was GM, and he became GM when I became a regional, and now John is a regional. So John will be overseeing all of our operations in Ohio. So we're transitioning account oversight over to John as well. So I want to thank you. I've been involved with this project for 11 years. As Ron said, I appreciate the support from the board and the opportunity to work with all of you. But I think John will help you guys bring it to the next level as well. So, John.
Okay. Well, good morning. I'll be quick. I'm glad to be here. Cleveland's a second home for me. So began about 31 years ago, my love affair with the city when I met my future bride on the campus of The Ohio State University, East Cleveland girls. So again, my time in the city has been great over the years. I'm excited for this opportunity. A lot of what I do from a regional perspective is throughout the state of Ohio, while my other venues oversee are being Dayton, Cincinnati, and Columbus. So we leverage those partnerships and those opportunities to drive business forward, to drive service forward. And again, I'm excited for the opportunity.
Welcome, yeah.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll go to our first slide, and Mr. Chairman, we'll go through this quickly. As always, we give our survey results. You can see that we're still doing quite well. These are our meeting planners that survey us. So mostly 90s of 100 there. The 73 is actually a good score. And that's the net promoter score. So that's people that would recommend us to other people. And working with partners, that's still where we keep trying to work a little bit on that. And I'll mention that in our annual plan, how we're going to work on that. Fiscal year, we've hosted 84 events, over almost 310,000 visitors, over 143,000 room nights, over 15.8 million in gross revenue. I'm going to jump to the couple of the bottom lines here. $61,000 favorable in variance in operations, $41,000 budget variance in the negative, but we're optimistic that will be erased throughout the next quarter. The big number that our chairman likes is the economic impact, which equates to the heads and beds, $125,542,938 for the year so far. I also wanted to mention the sales team booked 109 events into the future with over $1.5 million in license fees, over 173,000 room nights, over 170 attendees, and over $12 million in food and beverage sales. Just a reminder, the food and beverage sales next to rent is our biggest revenue generator in the convention center. Congratulate this board and the hospitality industry on the success of the expansion. Since opening through December 2031, we have 75 events in the new space. Economic impact of those 75 events exceeds $149 million. So this is proving to be very, very successful as the expansion. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions, Ron?
Cool.
With that, Ron, I would just say, I think you've touched on the heads and beds, and it's something that it's an attitude that I've had in life for my own career, but I very much feel strongly about this board and about Cleveland. I want to make sure that I say it with the presence of, I come here with the state of mind that if we do just as good a job as other convention centers, we lose. We have to always go above and beyond for whatever reason. We can't just be as good. We have to be better to get to. And one of the things that sometimes worries me is when you have a new facility like this, because of the energy and effort that went into it, that somehow people think that there's a little bit of a respite. But we honestly can't afford to have a respite, so we look forward to continuing the relationship. And the way that I look at it is we have to apply the gas, avoid the hitting the brakes a little bit because of, we can't afford to have that respite.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Absolutely agree, and I think that Gordon Taylor with Destination Cleveland and David and Travis would, they all know that we're full steam ahead and then some.
And with that, I'll turn it over for the 2025 annual plan and budget.
Thank you. Again, thank you all for the trust that you put in ASM Global. 2025 is going to be a really good year. We're highlighted by some big events, AP Reading, PMTS, the National Association of Black Journalists. Just as a reminder, AP Reading, an event that we booked with Destination Cleveland and our hotel partners. It's a recurring event representing, just in the convention center, $1.5 million of food and beverage and 16,000 room nights per year until at least 2028, with the potential for years beyond that. So huge event for us. Sales and marketing will spotlight the renovated atrium to host more conventions simultaneously and tap into local corporate, community, and social event opportunities to maximize the new space's potential. I am going very quickly, so I apologize if I do run on sentences. 2025 annual plan overview. You all received that, and hopefully we've had a chance to look that over. Again, a great year, 124 events projected for 2025, 72 confirmed and 52 unspecified. So that means Travis and his team have to come up with 52 more events. We're working very hard on that. I want to highlight that of the 72 events confirmed, 36 are contracted in the expanded center, so in the new space. The center will coordinate, and this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit. We're going to coordinate with our partners to provide a very high quality and cost-effective client experience. And what we want to do is we have already started sending out one invoice to clients instead of each contractor. In other words, Levy sending out an invoice, our AV partner sending out an invoice, et cetera. One invoice goes out. Now what we're trying to do, and especially in the new facility, is have one proposal that goes out to the client. So they aren't confused about, well, I have to get electricity. I have to talk to Levy. I have to talk to the building. Really streamline that process. And I'll talk about kind of how we're doing that in a minute, which is now. We're adding a sales manager, which still does not get us up to pre-COVID levels in the sales team, but what we're doing is adding a sales manager and event manager. Levy is also adding a catering sales manager. They're going to work together as a team to concentrate primarily on the new space, but not exclusively on the new space. So we'll have a team that can then be together and answer questions and really make that a first-class experience. We're adding a staff accountant, which puts us back up to pre-COVID staffing levels. One engineer, 3 setup and housekeeping people, 3 full-time security people, and 1 guest services person. The guest services person is our greeters that you see at the front desks. Real quick on the budget. Budget revenue for the total gross income, just over $19.5 million, which reflects $16 million in 2024. Our expenses, because we're doing more business, goes up, of course, $22 million in expenses as compared to over 19 million in 2024. The bottom line, it looks like we're budgeting for a $3.1 million deficit compared to over $4 million in 2024. That's a 21% favorable increase over the 2024 budget. I'm going to pause there, see if there's any questions before I go on. Estimated economic impact for 2025, over 361,000 attendees, over 115,000 room nights, over $111 million in economic impact. I want to highlight, those 36 events that we're talking about. I've already talked about AP Reading, National Association of Black Journalists, and International Municipal Sign. Those are all groups that would not have been able to book here if not for our expanded space. So I wanted to highlight those. And those 36 events that are using the new space are going to generate an economic impact of over $60 million. Just a refresher, we built the facility for approximately $50 million. So from an economic impact standpoint, we're in pretty good shape. Capital expenditures for 2025, $1.8 million. The biggest project is 1.5 million, which is the LED project. It's really kind of phase 2 of what we're doing here to replace in the C3 and C4 meeting spaces and common areas all the outdated incandescent lights that they don't make parts for anymore and are wearing out. So that will be our phase 2. There will be a phase 3, which will be exhibit hall lighting in the future. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Ron? All right, with that, this is actually a voting item, so we'll move to George on the 2025 budget presentation.
With the CCCFDC.
For the CTMs.
Okay, just so everybody understands, the budget that Ron presented and the budget that we have for the CCCFDC are all really one entity. Everything goes through here. It doesn't just give you a little detail, additional detail. So we get 5.4 million in rent from the county. We have agreed to pay the county back part of the addition, $1 million a year. And the county then takes that out of our rent payment and we get 4.4 million. We are now taking the cash from our, we have pre-funded our improvements. And so we're taking that $1 million back from there. We're pulling it out of our capital improvements account and putting it back in. So we have the 5.4. The next 4 items are basically the expenses. 362,000 is a personnel expense. Professional fees are legal fees and accounting fees, 130,000. Our insurance for the officers is 9,000 a year, and then miscellaneous business expense of 12,000. That brings us down to $514,000 of total expenses. The convention center funding for the budget is what Ron just presented, which is we're projecting for next year a budget deficit of 3.1 million, and then capital funding. This is what we put away into our future repairs accounts and things like that. And that's the 2.125 million. So that uses of cash is 5.795. So net cash is a deficit of 395,000. We then look at our projected cash that we're going to have at 12/31/24 of 1.7 million. And we have this budget deficit of 395,000, leaving us a projected cash balance as of 12/31/25 of 1.3 million. Any questions?
Any questions?
George, how does the 2.1 million compare with the 1.8 million 2025 capital budget for the ASM?
We have, what we're trying to do is tie out our capital improvements with the money we put aside for it. And we have typically done the 2.1 as just an estimate each year and then compare it to how we are. We're working on that right now. We've always had a surplus in our capital improvements budget, but we've put more away. My feeling has always been that if we approve a project, we should put the money aside now, so that when a project comes up, we have the money already for it, as opposed to just taking the money out of our capital accounts. And then all of a sudden we get to the end of the line and go, whoops, we don't have any money left there. We've been very conservative about doing that. And we just felt that the 2.1 has been a targeted number each year that we should be setting that much aside.
Any other questions? With that, do I have a motion to adopt the 2025 budget? Oh, go ahead.
I do, I'm sorry. This is gonna take way more than we have time for in this meeting. But I just feel that this budget, something is missing here. It does not equate in my mind. I'm having trouble finding where this 3.156 number came
Oh,
from,
that's out of this budget.
but where?
Last page.
I just feel like something's still missing in here. Okay, well, thank you. I didn't see that before, so that's helpful.
That picks up the summary then, so there are
Got it.
details here.
Yeah. We can move forward. I just think that as we bring on a new director,
Oh,
I would like to
absolutely.
talk about presenting this in a different way that's more holistic and more integrated.
That's in our
because
financial statements.
I find
The
it-
audit financial statements have it all in one area.
No, and we do actually, that would be so we'll talk a little about this a little bit once we get into the new business stuff. One of the things that we probably will need to have a special meeting before the end of the year, and I'll ask Julie to start to coordinate that. And number two, one thing that I'd like to do is to organize a retreat in the first quarter of next year for the board to go through the next year or 2 years, planning, long-term planning, short-term planning, all these issues that are coming up, the proper committee structure, and you know, it's a task that I would ask. We do have a finance committee that reviews to work with the new executive director in terms of the presentation of the budget in a format that is accessible to all the members. So I think that is something that we will do, and we'll address it more. I think we'll vet it with the board at the retreat in terms of what kind of data the board would like to see. And with that, do we have a motion to adopt the 2025 budget?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Judy, can you please call the roll?
Debbie Berry,
Yes.
Jeff Epstein.
Yes.
David Gilbert,
Yes.
Najee McClure,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Michael Obi, Tim Ostermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith, Mayor Sellers.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I almost made it by the time I cut off for the budget, because I think that we're done with the items on which people have to vote so far. With the ASE impact, I turn it over to Gordon.
Morning, everybody, and thanks for having me. For those of you that don't know what ASAE stands for, it's American Society of Association Executives. And just sitting here, a couple of things. First of all, thank you. Thank you very much to everybody in this room that was responsible for not only having the vision to have the new space here at the convention center, but getting it done by the time ASAE arrived. It was done a few weeks before, and the reason it was so important, and the reason ASAE is so important is it was basically brought 5,300 people here, about 78% of those folks were meeting planners. That will decide where association conventions are booked for probably the next decade or two. One of the metrics ASA uses to get cities excited to want to host a conference is they say that 20% of the people that attend this conference book something in your city within a 5-year span. So it was really our one opportunity to really knock it out of the park. This is called the Super Bowl meetings. There's like one other meeting in hospitality that's as big as this that you can host. And I love the comment earlier about how we can't just rest on our laurels, like here's the new space, aren't we great? Since I've been here 5 years now, and just like Ron was saying, and all the work I do with Tammy as well, we do have to work harder. We have to do more personable things. We have to be more memorable, because a lot of people, when they come here, they're not expecting this amazing city that we know that we have. Once we get them here, they book. And we have metrics on that. We can dig into some of the slides, so if you don't mind advancing them. I'll just show this slide. I won't go through every little thing. We'll cover that in the future slides. I'm gonna do my best. I am timing myself. I'm gonna try to keep it to 10 minutes. But really, it starts on a Friday and it ends on a Wednesday. We're basically throwing a party for a week straight for these planners. Imagine if you brought somebody here, whatever it is that you do for your occupation, and this is your one chance to show off your city and all your assets, this is it. This is why we went completely all out. I was at a meeting, an ASA meeting in Virginia Beach this week. I did not go there to have people tell me how great we were or how great Cleveland was. It is the first time in my career where I showed up to a meeting and there was a line of people wanting to talk to me, all about Cleveland and how great of a job we did. How did you do it? You know, how did you think of those things? Baltimore already came up to me and said, we're not hosting this until 2033. We heard about the hotel playbook that was put together. How did you get your hotels to do so many things and have all the hotels surprise and delight our attendees? So one last thing on this slide, the weather was perfect. If you guys remember this, it was ridiculous. It was 72 degrees. We had no humidity. Remind you, there's tornadoes on the Tuesday, right? When we're like looking at the party, it definitely impacted our staff, right? People had no power. We still delivered. But it was, some people say Chamber of Commerce weather, it was weird. There was like not a cloud in the sky for 4 consecutive days. No humidity, it was fabulous. And it really helped everything that we were doing. So we're gonna move on to the next slide. Just kind of plow through here. You can go to the next one. So for us, from the minute they got here, we had an airport party. No one had seen this before at ASAE. They came in, we literally had DJs. And we had signage everywhere. There are logos, you can see on the far right pictures, their branding was everywhere. So I think our airport is a strength for us when we have groups of this size, because we can really take it over. we went to Atlanta last year, you were like looking, like, where's ASAE? Is there anything ASAE related? You came into Cleveland, for the minute you, came off the airplane, you could hear the DJ playing and the welcome. And it was just this beautiful choreographed effort between the airport, destination Cleveland, and all the stakeholders. It was awesome. I was worried we weren't gonna get people downtown. No issues at all. Really easy for people. Then we activated East 4th Street, this Lakeside Lounge. Of course, we used, since this is about the convention center, nobody had ever done this before, ASAE said, where they literally came out of the convention center thinking that, well, I guess I'll just go back to my hotel, or I'll go kill some time. No, we had a party for them. We had live bands, we had food trucks, we even had a rocket car that people were getting on. Everybody wanted to ride, it was beautiful out, and riding around Cleveland and showing them our city, and then we activated the flats as well. This was a grand slam. This was like people playing the cornhole game, music, food trucks. Nobody needed to go back to their hotel. And they once again said, wow, we really, thought this thing through. So we used Lakeside Mall C to our advantage. And then we kicked it off with a reception. One of our strengths is definitely the Hilton Hotel, right? It's gorgeous. And they have an unbelievable space at the top of the hotel, bar 32. So we worked with ASAE. We actually had the CEO of ASAE, Michelle Mason, come in and speak at our Destination Cleveland board meeting in March. And a board member asked, well, how can our board help your board just so we can host a reception? So then Tammy offered to do it at the Hilton, which was perfect because that's where they were all staying. And what was cool about this day, and we, things that might just be normal to us, we don't know how much they're going to impact others. But we worked with Mayor Bibb's office and Bradford Davey, who's on our board. And we presented a plaque to ASAE that said that August 10th, 2024 is ASAE, the official ASAE day in Cleveland. And like the CEO, she was like tearing up about it. And we put it and we presented it to her, and it was just a great way to kick things off on that Friday. So, and I got about 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna skip through some of this pretty quickly. Opening celebration was at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Next slide. We didn't mess around. We brought in Nelly, right? Nelly was phenomenal. I had no idea. I was glad I didn't pick this. I was thinking Pat Benatar. Glad I listened to the younger people. Pat Benatar is still awesome. But if you saw this, right guy, right? Of course, he was arrested earlier a couple days before, and his flight was canceled. His flights were canceled, so he showed up to the Intercon Hotel at 2:30 in the morning on the bus. But Nelly really delivered for us, even with the Cleveland Script sign. And then we had our trade show. Of course, this was fun for me personally, like being at our center. It's like being on a basketball, football, or baseball team. This is the first time we had home court advantage. It was awesome, right? We had everything we needed. Of course, Cleveland's gonna have the best booth, right? We had the largest booth of any other city. We had a 20 by 30 booth for the first time since I've been here. And you go on the next slide, we did almost 600 scans in our booth. Of course, we had first time we brought booze into our booth, it was a big hit though. People loved it. We had donuts, we had clients. This is a picture of our team. We worked with all of our main hotels, our convention center. And of course, right when we walked in, we were the first booth that anybody saw. They even had a video of me. What was that? What do they call those? Like a 3D video where hologram of myself, which was weird, standing next to. But they really helped us play up on, because this is our bread and butter. This is where we're getting the clients, right? Our work as a sales team and Ron's team and Tammy, our work is just now beginning. Because it's all about the ROI. And I'll show you on the last slide where we're at so far. So hotel activations was a huge thing. Go to the next slide, please. We had to use 16 hotels. We met with them 48 times. And the hotels clearly got the message. And they completely went off. When I say went off, it was the talk of ASAE. Was how did you choreograph this effort? Every hotel did something out of their own budget, their own staff, and none of it was paid for by, it was literally comes out of the hotel budget. But people came in, like, look at this red carpet at the Hyatt. The Hilton Garden Inn even had a little dog. They had welcoming people. This is literally their little mascot here. The Hilton, this was the backdrop there. They even had 2 different singers come in. The Marriott had a folk band. I mean, it was just like lively, it was energetic. It was fun, the weather was perfect. Even the hotels that we were really concerned about, there's a couple of them that are challenging, that people are like, well, we just forget about that. We can see that they wanted to come here so bad. We actually, are not gonna be too critical of them because they were trying so hard. So this was a great home run for Cleveland as well. And then we had our classic at the Rock Hall, County Executive Romaine gave a really fiery speech at this. It was awesome. He got up there and just like floored the audience, which I thought, this is so cool. Like, how many cities have a person that could come in and do this? And then that's the CEO, Michelle Mason. Of course, there's David, our entire team.
I'm gonna interrupt. The highlight of that night for me was County Executive Ronayne and David Gilbert dancing with Michelle Mason, the CEO of ASAE. That was a highlight of my night.
There is a video as well, David, and I think the song was Footloose. So next one, we'll move on. So that was Monday night Rock Hall, then we had the closing in the flats. We didn't even.
It was great.
Machine Gun Kelly Day in Cleveland was the same day. He actually showed up to our event. So here's your CEO of ASAE. She's already said this is the most memorable. She said having our annual in Cleveland was a lifetime event for me. People don't say they're having a lifetime event if it wasn't that great. They can say something more poignant, but she genuinely meant it. Machine Gun Kelly, we wanted people to see we are a waterfront city. A lot of people do not understand that we are a waterfront city, so we doubled down on that by having this in the flats. Of course, the sun was setting, the skyline looked beautiful, the music was great. Nobody left. People did not leave. It was like, it was a party, late night party. So a good ending. And then moving on, some of the insights from people, we can kind of cook through these a little bit. So this is the big one. Would you recommend Cleveland as a meetings destination? 82% said yes. Leisure destination, 90%. Would you visit Cleveland again? 81%. And very little no's as well.
And I think that the no's were our competition.
Right, keep in the competition. How about this? Very likely to recommend it. How about 0.0 people said very unlikely? 85% said they'd recommend this experience to others. Some of the quotes that people said, thought it wasn't a super cool or things to do, I was wrong. Much nicer and bigger than I thought. Amazing and fun city, I was super impressed. Keep going to the next one if you don't mind. And then some other quotes just about the Cleveland experiences that we did. One slide that I didn't show you, we actually did 9 Cleveland experiences that really get into the DNA of the city. Things like not the Rock Hall, we went into neighborhoods and did experiences for people. And this is what those comments are coming from. These are like the experiences for between 25 and 50 people. We actually sold out 2 of them. And then they actually talked about Destination Cleveland, of course, we're very proud. This is something that we shared with our staff. This was an entire Destination Cleveland organization effort, along with all of you as well. But it was really great to see this part right here on the end about we felt like royalty. And we were pretty much everywhere. The branding in Cleveland is phenomenal. It's consistent. It's everywhere. Appreciate how friendly and helpful everyone has been. The number one word cloud word that people use to describe our city was friendly. That was the word that came through the most. Couple more slides, and then just about Cleveland in general. The city just keeps getting better and better. We already had won these people over on Sunday. We hadn't even shown them Rock Hall or the Flats yet. And I was sitting there thinking, they haven't seen some of our 2 of our best assets yet. And it just kept getting better and better. They said they're impressed with Cleveland, very walkable. I like the city for this meeting. Not enough people know how great the city is. Love the diversity, easy to navigate, and good quotes. And then the 3 last slides. So of course, we're tracking the ROI. We've already generated 18 leads from this. This is what it's all about, right? The work is right now for us. So we're very fanatic in our tracking. We're tracking everything that comes in. If you were here for ASAE, we have a tag on you and we're working you through our system. So we actually have already gotten 51,000 room nights, 36% of those, 18,000 of them we're working right now to close. And here are some of the groups that we're working on closing. There's 6 big ones. So we specifically pointed them out. The one that you'll see on the next slide in the top left corner. The American Society of Colorectal Surgeons, they actually stayed at Tammy's Hotel. They specifically wanted to be there. So we were able to have them stay there. And then we met with the CEO, Ron, you remember going in and meeting with them? This is looking very strong for 29. 29 may sound far out to some people. It's not for us. In our world, that's only 5 years away. You have the Air Conditioning Contractors of America, Women in Steel Conference, and then there's 3 more on the last slide that we're working on as well. And just so you're like, from an education standpoint, how the conventions work, it's not a short game, it's definitely a long game. It's only been about 60 days since we had ASAE. So, but the ROI and the tracking is something we're, like I said, we're very fanatic about. So It can all come at once. It can take, up to a year to book them. Columbus is still telling us about bookings that they're getting from 2019. But the impact of having it, I do believe it's changed the landscape for Cleveland forever. We don't just go into a room. People now know we're not just, Cleveland, we're Cleveland that hosted the Super Bowl meetings. And they won't give you the metrics if they don't want to put it up against other cities and make other cities discouraged. But they said that when they were in Cleveland, it was the highest net promoter score they've had in the history of the conference. So something we can all feel proud about. And it showed everybody.
Sorry, Columbus.
3,800 people on each list. 90% of 16 hotels were taking their inventory.
Any questions for Corey?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I've hosted 3 ASAEs now, San Diego, Dallas, and here. This by far, and congratulations to the entire hospitality community, but really David and Gordon, this by far was the best ASAE that I've attended probably 20 of them, by far the best. So great team effort.
Thank you very much, Courtney.
If I could add one other comment, if that's all right.
Great debt of gratitude.
I think David Gilbert,
was done.
Mr. Chairman, David Gilbert would like to say
Oh,
something.
David, go ahead.
Oh, hey, Missy, thanks. I just wanted to add, I've been around and doing this in Cleveland for a long time. I think that this is the first time we could finally say we are a real player in this meetings conventions business. I mean, we are a national force for a city our size. And I just want to give a huge thanks to Ron and his team, because we have such a close, strong relationship, and we talk a lot about what we can control and what we can't. And the what we can control is how we treat the customer and how we coordinate together. And their team just does an absolutely incredible job. And it really makes a difference, and just really proud of what this community is doing to make sure that this building is maximizing its impact.
And on behalf of the board, David, I have great thank you to you and your team and everybody who put Cleveland on the map and made sure that this convention was a huge success. With that, I'll turn it over to Ellis Katz quickly on the expansion project update.
I'll go as fast as I can. I want to say one more thing about ASAE. About 2 months before we opened, we were having weekly virtual calls with ASAE, and I will tell you, they were pretty freaked out when we would show them pictures of cranes in the atrium and workers all over the place, and the floor covered over with protection board. And seeing all those people go through on the escalators at ASAE was a highlight of my career, and I'm proud to have been a part of it.
Ellis called me and he was crying. I just want you to know that.
No, I mean,
Yeah, it was, yeah.
they were pouring out of the sessions and they were filling those escalators. It was awesome. So now we're trying to close out the project. So we're at the project right now. We had a very thorough punch list. We had over 1,000 items. Now, you look at that and you say, well, that's a lot of items, but really a lot of them was nits and gnats related to painting. So by today and tomorrow, we're gonna have a majority of those done. There are some alternate work that we had in process, so that one's running a little bit behind. So we hope we're gonna close out the project with final completion by the end of November. Next slide. These are similar to what you've seen before. They had 280 workers, 157,000 man hours, and only one injury that happened very early on in the project, and that was minor. Thanks. In terms of participation, Turner met all their goals. They really worked hard on the workforce side of it. They were actually achieving the goal for minority workforce, which is something we were concerned about. They came very close on female, but that was the one thing they fell short on. Next slide. You've seen this budget before. I just want to highlight a couple of things. Levy was generous with regard to how we got our kitchen paid for, but there was also a few other things that we had to implement, like in our suites, we had a bar, we added a specialty mixer in the kitchen that we wanted to add. So they had provided, we had assumed we might spend up to $222,000. We actually only spent about $122,000. So we changed the budget to reduce that amount because we wouldn't have to spend it anymore. So the revised budget overall for the project is $51,688,910. Next slide. This is the spend on the project. As you can see, the remaining budget is $808,000. Go to the next slide. These are the change orders since the last time the board saw what we approved. I'm just flashing them up there. If we want to go into detail, we can do that another time. I'm trying to go fast. So this is an important slide because of the $808,000, in the red cells, we know we've got committed money. We gotta pay off Turner, we have some signage we have to pay, and there's a commission agent we still have to pay. So $560,894 will be paid. That leaves an unexpended balance, which are the green cells in this chart, of $248,000. And a little caveat, $202,600 of it is tied to Superman funding. If there is other needs, we would go to that source of funding to ask for that money. Next slide. So these are the possible uses of that unexpended balance. We can't do all of that with $248,000. If there is money left over with regard to interest in the funds that we have in the bank, we'll try to use that. We don't know what that is yet. So we're gonna be very selective on what we're gonna pick to use that money for. The rest would have to be budgeted in a CapEx fund.
Yeah, one comment, for the project, there will be no more money that comes out of interest on the bonds, but there will be more money, interest on the bonds after the reconciliation. That will go into our capital repair budget. And some of these items that you might not pay for with that 260, there will be more money in the capital repair budget, and some of those items can then be taken care of in the future as a capital repair out of that money.
So question, so Ellis, how will you gonna make the recommendations back to the board to select? You're gonna have a list of projects that you're gonna, you could potentially select one for that $240,000+ correct?
Yeah, what we typically do is we Turner, if it's Turner or a selective consultant that ASM hires or a vendor for ASM, will come to the CCCFDC and ask for approval of that spend.
That'll be handled, ASM and Ellison go through it. They'll determine what their highest needs are, because there's a lot of these are still in the capital repair. They're part of the capital issues anyway.
Correct.
Which you guys have already approved. So they'll do that and then come back to the board in one of our executive meetings like.
Well, I think, okay, that's good. My question is a little different. You have a list of things that you want to do, right? We ran into this on the deck outside here, right? So who brings that back and say, okay, here's a list of things that we could do? And then the information coming from Ellis and Turner saying, okay, I would recommend this, right? Right, because it should not be BMC or Turner.
It comes through ASM. So we take that, ASM looks at their needs because they're responsible for that. And it's also what goes into the capital repair. So they come back, they do it with ASM makes their requests, organizes it, and then the combination of that comes back to the board. But it's ASM that is actually looking at.
So I think part of the concern, Jeff, is I think the last time, part of what drove, some of the landscaping on the terrace and all that stuff was in the executive committee meetings where those things were pushed. And
well, it comes back to
so
the same
that's
comes back to the executive committee.
Right, that's
Exactly the same process you saw before. That's where the board has its input. To the executive committee, and then it's reported on at these meetings quarterly, but it comes back into the executive committee meeting.
Right.
Just like it did before.
Right. So of this list, what we're doing is trying to compile all what those numbers are, and then we'll put those in a chart and show you what's out there, what's exceeding the 248, and you can make decisions as to what you want to spend.
All right, any other questions for Ellis?
Just, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you guys today. I want to thank Ellis and Turner's not here. Great job, great project. They got it in, and it really was Ellis and Turner. Really, we were literally having a camera and walking around, or a phone walking around showing ASAE because they were so nervous about it being finished, and they were so happy once they got here. So great work.
This was great work, and we're liking the vitamin C faucets, but otherwise it's an incredible project. Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, two things really quickly. On Superman, I'm simply going to say we're continuing to work with the Siegel and Schuster Society. All the work, the preliminary work is all there. They are going through their fundraising right now. They have their stuff down at the foundry on the donation and maintenance agreement. Actually, that is in the hands of the county right now because the county is going to propose to provide the annual maintenance. And they're also going to, we're going to insure it through them. They're developing the cost for us, which we're then going to take back and negotiate. So that's that. Really good story on bird mitigation. And on bird mitigation, and I did send something to the board partway through, but there's a fabulous product that we ultimately determined would work for this. It basically is a bird deterrent film that we're going to put on. We can put on the mirrors. And the great thing about it is, even though it has that grid that the birds see, the human eye doesn't. And this was not available before. It used to be that if you put the grid screen on, it would be visible, but now it only shows up ultraviolet. The city really approved of this, loved this, because it's going to look pretty much the same as it looks right now. You're not going to notice the difference. The birds will, we won't. The city decided they didn't want art or anything else. They just wanted to preserve exactly what's out there. That's great. We identified what the product would be. We put out an RFP. We got 4 proposals back in the last week, which we're now vetting. And the really great news is that the cost of all these proposals is all in the $200,000 plus range. It's all under 300,000. Ranges from the mid to low twos, like 230 to 280, something like that. We're vetting it, but this is, much less than what we once thought this might be. The idea is going to be that we will start the work. We're going to do a mock-up so everyone can see it this fall and be certain that it looks good. The work will probably start in February and it'll take 2 months if the board approves it. It's still your approval on the contract. So the idea is going to be, we'll come bact to the special meeting with the final contract for you to approve.
That's good work, because that was, I remember, it was 600,000-700,000.
That's right.
We're talking about 600,000.
We haven't lost anything on the life of the product in terms of the duration.
No, still the same. It's all in there. There's an RFP where we laid out all of our needs and it's all there. And so this is a project that we're really happy with how this is coming out.
Good job, Jeff.
And with that, I'll turn it to Larry on the Hilton update.
Thanks so much. We can just go to the next slide. Bottom line is lodging industry nationwide is sluggish year to date. RevPAR growth is up 1 to 2% range year to date. If we look at the Cleveland market, however, and this is the broader market overall, RevPAR is up almost 12%, 11.6%. A lot of this driven by the major events that everyone's aware of year to date. If we look at the downtown hotels, RevPAR's growth has been even stronger. RevPAR is up 24% compared to last year. That growth is coming balanced both through occupancy up 14% and ADR up 9% as well. So coming balanced through those two areas. In terms of other local market trends, airport's busy. Starting to see some renovations and some hotels on the market downtown, some repositionings as well, and some new supply sort of perking along a little bit on the bottom. I know I'm being very quick, but any questions?
Good.
Hey, Larry, it's Tim. How do you see, given the size and dynamics of our local market, maybe David can comment on this too. How do you see new supply impacting that?
Well, I think if we take a step back, Tim, broad stroke, new supply nationwide is challenging right now. Interest rates are still high, although expectations are for them to come down. Construction costs are still high. And so from a pure, how do you put a new development together, we're seeing projects getting done or getting creative on their funding, whether it's historic tax credits or something else, but the capital stack is complicated. That being said, there is a little more momentum now on new supply than we probably saw 90 to 120 days ago. And so as we look out, more projects are starting to starting to bubble up, if you will.
I would just add, Tim, too. I mean, if the numbers, 24 was an outsized year because of so many things we've had. Like we're going to have a hard time with growth for next year, but that happens after a monster year. But we are so far ahead of our peers this year. I mean, almost every month after month, whether it's occupancy rate or RevPAR, we're usually out of our peers at about 11 in the top 1 to 3. And we've just anecdotally been hearing about more projects that are considering Cleveland, and I think we have a better shot. I'm not worried because when you see that kind of growth, it means we could use some additional supply. I think the W, if that does happen in Erie View Tower, will be a great addition of another high end product in the market. I think the key will be over the next 2, 3, 4 years, is there rationale somehow or another to add another convention center type hotel, whether it's part of the Hilton or otherwise. I think that could be the one area we could use, but we'll have to see if that happens.
Okay, thanks.
I indicated the emails from Judy on our program, especially
the year, and then obviously a retreat the first quarter of 2025. Long-term, short-term, we're always staying ahead of the curve. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
No, we got new business.
Oh, new business. Go ahead.
It's a new business. I know as we come out of this project here, I had asked Jeff to look into the plaque dedication that is usually customary done with new projects here for this business. The project's come to a close. Really, I think it's handing out a draft. But I think this this body should think about adopting a policy here when it comes to this. As I see there are, this was not, I don't think we talked about here. But we're coming to the end of this project here, and we're gonna be able to mark what happened, when it happened, and you have a policy in front of you. I would propose that this board looks at the policy and then convenes at some point in the future to take it up again to see if we can establish a policy here moving forward here instead of not addressing it at all. Jeff, you want to just say a few words?
Yeah, I'll just say that this is something for the board to consider. When this was a county project, and I know that we have people, Trevor and Debbie, that have views on this. They're not here anymore, so that today, so they're gonna have to defer. There are no plaques currently on the building. That had to do with some when it was the county building, it had to do with they couldn't agree on whose name would be on the plaque, and that's not a plaque on the convention.
We tried, Jeff.
That's right.
Yep.
And, oh, Trevor, you're still on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm on.
And there was some, and then because of that issue, when it came to the hotel, it just didn't come up. But it is a legitimate thing to talk about. It is a little bit interesting when you have multiple boards involved and you have, the administration. This is actually something that the mayor, from another public body started with. We saw a policy. This is simply adopted, and it's actually made simpler than theirs for this. It's just a point of discussion to see whether you want to have a policy for dedication plaque.
And I would just say on this and everything else, and significant thank yous to the mayor. I think this is something that keeps coming up repeatedly in terms of to the outside world looking into this board. Probably it's not visible in terms of how much more maturity, where we started and where we are today and where we're headed, where this board was started out of scratch. And we keep maturing and becoming more mature as an organization, developing better structure, developing better safe controls, developing everything. And this is a continuing process. And this is one item that also all of that will have to.
And one thing I forgot to mention, and the question is whose decision is this? Let me address that. Because some people said, is this the board's decision? Or since ultimately this reverts back to the county as a county decision? The answer is, this is a board decision, provided that it doesn't, the only time that the county weighs in on this decision, other than the members from the county, is whether it impacts the overall design or the structural integrity of the project. Obviously, a plaque doesn't go to overall design or structural integrity, so it is a board decision.
I would just say that, it's offered for consideration. In my world, this is unconscionable to move into and construct a new facility and not be able to, put your marker down, because it just in case we built the building and we came back, we had a major renovation, right? Who the hell's gonna know what happened along the way here, right? You have to document those milestones here, right? As we go forward, who's to tell that when nothing else comes? But you have to take, from my opinion, you have to take it up at some point here, and you have to stand on it. So
Yeah, I'll understood. I'll quote, Khalil Gibran, you know, the person who came up with the quote, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, that John Kennedy quoted. You know, he had another saying, he who denies his heritage has no heritage. And I sort of, think of it in the same way for these buildings, in the sense of, we can't deny our history and what happens with our history, and it's just always part of documenting our history as we go forward. But again, that's, with that, I think we'll, unless there's no action on this today, the next meeting is, January 24, 2025. And then, as I've indicated, look for emails, for a special meeting sometime in December. And then hopefully we, also dates for a retreat, the first quarter of January. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second? We're adjourned.
Second.
For lack of a fourth.
All right, excellent.